Over the past decade, U.S. farmland has experienced one of the most dramatic price accelerations in its history. Land values in key production states jumped 50 to 100%, and even marginal acres saw record bids. What used to be a local market shaped by neighboring families and generational transitions is now influenced by capital flows, inflation hedging, and global demand for food and energy. Farmland became a financial asset class, reliable, scarce, and uncorrelated with stock market volatility. And as values climbed, it attracted buyers who historically had nothing to do with agriculture. By 2025, farmland was no longer just a productive input. It became a strategic vehicle for wealth preservation and geopolitical leverage. Institutional investors, private equity firms, pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth funds all shifted toward tangible assets during years of high inflation. Farmland delivered everything they wanted: stable returns, inflation-resistant appreciation, and rising global food demand. Corporations saw farmland as a foundation for energy projects, carbon credits, renewable fuels, and water access. For many of these players, the land itself mattered less than the strategic advantage it offered in the decades ahead. What pushed the farmland market from hot to geopolitically charged was the surge of foreign interest. Nations facing food insecurity, water scarcity, or long-term supply concerns began acquiring or financing farmland globally, including in the United States. Some pursued direct ownership, others used subsidiaries, joint ventures, or investments in agribusiness companies that own land. For these governments, farmland is not just an investment, it's an insurance policy. It ensures access to food, feed, and agricultural commodities independent of diplomatic shifts or global shocks. By 2025, foreign capital was not simply participating in the U.S. farmland market, it was competing aggressively for acreage in strategic regions. A combination of long-term pressures elevated farmland from a local resource to a global strategic asset. Food scarcity, growing global populations, and rising protein demand placed unprecedented pressure on grain and feed production. Energy transformation, biofuels, renewable diesel, and carbon markets created new revenue streams tied directly to land ownership. Inflation cycles. Persistent inflation made farmland one of the most reliable hedges available to institutional capital. Limited supply. Farmland cannot be manufactured. Every acre that disappears to urban expansion increases scarcity. Together, these forces created a perfect storm. Farmland became both an economic asset and a geopolitical tool, a rare combination that drove global players into the U.S. market. By 2025, the U.S. farmland market crossed a threshold. What used to be a regional competition between farmers and local investors became a global struggle for control of a critical resource. Decisions about who owns land now intersect with questions of national security, food sovereignty, and geopolitical influence. Foreign governments aren't just buying land, they're buying strategic leverage. Wall Street isn't just allocating capital, it is reshaping who controls the future of American agriculture. This is the message at the center of this new era. 2025 isn't just another year. It's the year U.S. farmland became a global battleground, where local acres meet international ambitions. Across the United States, the landscape of farmland ownership is changing in ways most producers never imagined. Fields that once passed from one generation of farmers to the next are increasingly being acquired by entities with no connection to agriculture. These buyers don't plant, harvest, or manage livestock. They're not families, they're institutions. They view farmland not as a way of life, but as an asset class, a strategic resource with long-term economic and geopolitical value. By 2025, this shift became unmistakable. The people acquiring U.S. farmland weren't farmers. They were global capital players pursuing control, security, and leverage. Private equity firms, pension funds, university endowments, asset managers, and sovereign wealth funds have become some of the largest and fastest-growing owners of American farmland. Their reasoning is straightforward. Farmland is one of the strongest hedges against inflation available. During high inflation cycles, land values tend to rise, and farmland historically outperforms equities and bonds. Wall Street sees farmland as a stable, low-volatility investment with consistent cash yield through long-term leases to farmers. For a pension fund, a 10 to 20-year lease agreement with a reliable operator is ideal, slow, predictable, and backed by a physical asset that appreciates over time. For private equity, farmland offers diversified revenue streams, crop production, carbon credits, renewable energy leases, and water rights. Sovereign wealth funds view farmland as a way to store value outside volatile financial markets while gaining exposure to food production. To institutional investors, U.S. farmland is the ultimate strategic commodity, scarce, productive, inflation-resistant, and globally demanded. While Wall Street is a major player, foreign investment is reshaping the farmland debate even more dramatically. Countries facing food insecurity, water scarcity, or long-term supply risks are aggressively buying or financing farmland worldwide, including in the United States. China, the United Arab Emirates, and several European nations are among those expanding holdings through direct purchases, partnerships, shell companies, or foreign-owned agribusiness subsidiaries. These acquisitions are not simply economic plays, they are strategic moves designed to secure access to food, energy, and water resources in a world where scarcity is increasing. Foreign entities often target land near critical water basins, major logistics corridors, or high-output regions. While still a small percentage of total U.S. farmland, the growth in foreign ownership has accelerated sharply. Each purchase deepens external influence over America's agricultural capacity, a shift that raises questions about national security, long-term control, and market vulnerability. Foreign investors aren't betting on land, they're buying leverage. Corporations and large-scale agribusinesses are also reshaping farmland ownership. For some, the goal is vertical integration, controlling production from soil to processing to exports. This ensures supply security, reduces volatility, and captures more profit per bushel. Others are acquiring land to access water rights, position for renewable fuel mandates, or build carbon credit portfolios as ESG regulations tighten. Energy companies are buying farmland to secure acreage for renewable diesel feedstocks. Tech companies are acquiring land for carbon sequestration projects. Meat packers and grain traders want direct control over feed supplies. Mega producers are expanding aggressively to gain economies of scale, negotiate better financing terms, and secure long-term market dominance. In every case, the objective is the same: control of resources, supply chains, and the economic value locked up inside the land itself. The common thread among Wall Street funds, foreign investors, and major corporations is that they are not motivated by farming. They are motivated by economic, strategic, or geopolitical advantage. Farmland provides stability, scarcity, access to water, exposure to global food demand, and leverage in future energy and carbon markets. It is no longer viewed as an agricultural input. It is viewed as a foundational asset of global power. This shift means the identity of the American landowner is being rewritten in real time. Traditional producers are increasingly competing against balance sheets, investment algorithms, government-backed funds, and multinational giants. The people buying U.S. farmland today are not the ones working it. They are the ones seeking to control its strategic value. The new land rush is reshaping the very structure of U.S. agriculture. As investment funds, corporations, and foreign buyers acquire increasing amounts of farmland, independent producers are being priced out. Rising land values, higher lease rates, and shrinking margins make family succession harder and prevent new farmers from entering the sector. The result is a landscape where fewer producers actually own the land they farm. Agricultural autonomy, choosing what to plant, when to sell, and how to manage operations, is replaced by contracts, financial pressures, and dependence on non-farming landowners. When farmland ownership shifts into foreign hands, the implications extend far beyond economics. Land ownership provides indirect control over essential resources, water, food production, and key commodities that power the global economy. If foreign corporations or state-linked entities influence how farmland is used, part of America's food security and national stability becomes vulnerable. The ability of the U.S. to guarantee supply, stabilize prices, and maintain strategic independence may increasingly depend on actors whose interests do not necessarily align with the country. As farmland becomes a global financial asset, power within American agriculture is being rewritten. Rural communities weaken, production chains consolidate, and decisions once made locally shift to corporate boards or international investors. The logic of agriculture becomes disconnected from the realities of the field, replaced by return on investment metrics and financial engineering. This silent transformation determines who holds influence in the agricultural world and who simply operates within it.